Welcome to Touched and Empowered, a show created to empower individuals to value their lives by hosting think tank discussions that will inspire positive action. Touched and Empowered with Katie and Ace starts now.
So, on this episode of Touched and Empowered, we are talking about, as Ace laughs at me, we are talking about dedication and flexibility. And yes, this is Katie talking.
So Katie got on the phone with me earlier, and I was just like, "Ooh."
I'm
uh,
I am having my in singing, it's the chest voice. My voice has dropped because of allergies. So yay.
yeah,
I
yeah,
get to have the deep sultry voice today.
yeah. I was like, "Tell me more." Like,
This is what I feel like I could open a cookbook and start reading the ingredients of like shepherd's pie and people will be like, "Ooh, ASMR."
right? Like, I'm in the mood of like, wow, Katie, I kind of want to like bite my lip and keep going. Like, this is insane. Like, so sultry. Like,
As long as we have fun with it, I mean, I feel fine. I just am sounding very deep and sultry and mysterious today.
and this is what we call, ladies and gentlemen, determination and flexibility. She was determined to be here,
That's
and it's
true.
like and I'm doing my best to be as flexibly professional as possible. And it's
Yeah, darling, we have been through so much together,
this is real.
growing, and we've become really good friends and everything, that I know that you and I could give each other shit and it's not gonna matter because it's all with love. So
So much love.
it's perfectly fine that you enjoy my sultry voice today.
Oh. So I normally actually every year, depending on my allergies, I actually go through something similar with Katie. But
Yeah.
every time people are like, "Do you have that number?" It sounds like people should be calling you at like 3 in the morning and asking what's up. Like
I
it's just
I need to do an audio only account on like OnlyFans and just read random stuff and have people subscribe to listen to me read the weather report or something.
oh my yeah. Oh, let's talk about how that
How not to do that.
flexibility. Well, here, ladies and gentlemen, what I've actually understood about this and what Katie is actually bringing up is like sometimes that flexibility and that determination just manifests something you didn't expect that would be hilariously awesome to just record and have. And this is that episode.
Yeah, this is the episode where there's really, it's all about the flexibility. It's all about the determination that we have because we made the commitment that we were going to
Mm-hmm.
stick with the
Mm-hmm.
podcasting. And there have been times where we've postponed recording because we've been out of the office, we've been traveling, visiting family or whatever. But neither one of us have ever quote unquote called out sick. And I think that's just,
Right.
this is my determination. I always hated calling out sick because I felt guilty taking time to take care of myself. I'd much rather go to work and have my boss tell
Mm-hmm.
me you look like shit, go home, than to call out and say I don't feel good.
That's what I used to do too. And you know, there was a point where I was like bleeding purposes. We fixed it. But
Thank
like,
heavens for that.
yeah, I got to the office and like I was just like my eye, I think one of my eyes, like one of my eyes popped a blood vessel. I had a nosebleed the day before, and like I don't know what I did with my ears, but there was something going on with blood. And I just
Ooh.
remember thinking, maybe I should.
Yeah, maybe I should go home for that.
Yeah,
Well,
I remember telling my boss, like, I feel awful. Can I please go home? And he was like, "Oh, Fred, you okay, go, go. I believe
yeah.
you go."
And I think it's because there's, at least for me growing up, I would always hear about the bosses complaining about people who were calling out all the time.
Mm,
And I didn't want to be that bad employee. So therefore, I came into
Yeah.
work sick. I was dedicated to the job. Now, it wasn't always smart because someone comes in sick, then everyone in the office ends up catching it over the next week or so. Versus if you stayed home, then it's just one person out of the office instead of everyone out of the office.
Mm,
But that's when
yeah.
looking back, it's like, oh, yeah, self-care was not on the top of Katie's list.
I hear you because I was the same way. I even I forgot my birthday was that week. And
Oh,
my boss at the time knew I wasn't kidding. I was so honest. I was like, I'm so sorry. I really forgot my birthday was next week. Next week. Can I take a personal day? And they were just like, we believe you. But here's the thing. So like dedication and flexibility, it's such a really prominent topic because I honestly believe determination doesn't mean, sacrifice yourself.
yeah, true. And I just to
No.
be clear, I feel perfectly fine. I do not have a fever. I am not sick. I just sound sultry.
Oh
That's my
no, we
word
love it,
today.
right? That's why I asked her to stay on the line. But like what I wanted to, plus at the same time it's giving me so much joy.
It's
Um
fun. It's fun.
so much fun. But what I really want to say is like honestly, determination, yes, go for it, win what you gotta do, what you gotta do, be flexible at the circumstances, achieve what you need to achieve, go over the hurdles, take a step back, take a rest day, redetermine for a new date, do what you gotta do, still
Right.
value your life. Like that's actually really important.
Absolutely.
Value your life. And that's where the flexibility is so important. And you can be creative. For instance,
For instance, go
shall we talk about this? All right. So
go
last
for it.
week, you're gonna like this one. Personal story for me. Got a last week. And we don't know when these are gonna be out there. So that's when it's really fun too, because I can share this. And we don't know when or who this is from. So I remember I was applying for a content creator opportunity. I was
Yes.
also applying for 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 something else. I was like, I needed to get a new doctor for I have ADHD, so I actually do take medication specifically for this. But guess what?
What happened this time?
The United States actually has a shortage of ADD medication, and I
Oh,
was without my medication for a week.
I know people who take what I'm just gonna call maintenance medication, and it sucks when you can't get it
Oh
for
my
whatever
gosh,
for
it's
whatever reason. It sucks when you have that, week gap or 2 week gap where you don't have the
it.
benefits of the medication and you actually gotta go through withdrawal, don't you?
I went through insanity withdrawal. Like that entire week,
Oh,
I was going through withdrawal. So it was it was so bad. And I was really grateful for the person I was dating at the time
mm,
because they were there for the first half to help me kind of go through it. I was panicking at night. It was really awful. Um, and then what ended up happening was I was at the very tail end of two things to apply for, like new rental agreement for my apartment complex, and additionally, um, last leg of creating a portfolio for this opportunity. And I ran out of medication. And when you really do have ADD, it's a dopamine imbalance. So essentially, your
right.
emotions are off, your focus is off. Depending on how you're doing with your hormones are going to be off, and you're just in this tumultuous, seismic typhoon until you're for a good 4 to 5 days, maybe 6, maybe 7, depending on how high your dosage is. And get this, so go through all of that. The very last day, that Sunday, talk about determination. I was
Hmm.
determined to get these 2 applications in. Very determined. Had an entire week where I was scheduling an entire event and hopefully being there for people and doing my best without it. Then that night, that person just couldn't be there to
Yeah.
support me. And then I had to Thankfully, I didn't have an attack. I used to have attacks, usually at the 6th or 7th day, and they weren't there. They ghosted that night. And that morning, I woke up and I was like, not sure what to feel.
Well, that's
All I could,
understandable.
right? All I could do was go, I think we're done. And ended the relationship right there. Went in front of my Gohonzon, which, by the way, is a mandala that we chant to as Nichiren Buddhists, and just sat there, chanted when I could, when my focus could come back, chanted when I could. And then all of a sudden, something just came out of nowhere. And I was like, you know what? I have the links to all of the stuff for that portfolio. Submit.
So you did get it done.
I got it done with a breakup, with an experience that was like heartbreaking, with lack of dopamine in my brain, right? And I still did it. And guess what happened?
Did you get it?
I got my medication right afterwards. The flexibility right there, folks. No matter what, the determination is real. If you have setbacks, fine, well, that's what it is. But through the circumstances and the obstacles, you have to be flexible and just move through it that way.
I completely agree. And one of the things for me is that I've done the determination and the push through, but I've gone to the point where I've pushed too hard when I didn't have the personal, physical, and emotional resources to do it. And the best example I can give of this was I pushed to do an application for a new position when I was at my corporate job, right around the time frame that mentally I was not in a good space. I was having a really rough time with loss of family members, loss of really close friends who decided to ghost me, and some other family stuff that was a lot of drama, a lot of don't worry, Katie will take care of it when Katie didn't have time to take care of it. Kind of situation. And I was also butting heads with a lot of my team members at that particular moment in time and felt like my perception was that I felt like I was being thrown under the bus. And I went
Yeah.
into to the job interview for the new position, and the entire job interview, I complained about my existing team members and how I had to get away from that toxic environment. Needless to say, I got back to my
Yeah.
desk and sent an email withdrawing my name from the position because I realized that I am not a good candidate if I am not in a healthy headspace. And
Yep.
I took 3 days off to try and get my shit together. Because
Beautiful.
I didn't realize it until that point. And it was during that interview I started breaking down crying, and I was like, oh my God, I am not taking care of myself. I need to go take care of myself.
Yeah, self-care. It's a lesson we all learn, right?
Yeah,
It
we
still is.
all have our
It's so
stories.
important.
It
Yeah.
is.
And it's
And
funny that you say that because during that tumultuousness, right, I was taking care of myself still. Like I was still getting up. I was still like, I knew that I wasn't in the right space to make specific decisions, right?
right.
Except that breakup. That was the right decision all around.
And I do think that in these periods of chaos, I'm just gonna call it emotional chaos, whether it has to do with, in my case, a whole bunch of drama going on and not having space to process, or in your case, a hiccup
That actually
in
brought the most clarity.
medications, that it actually brings a lot of clarity to what's going on in our world and lets us reorganize our priorities as to what's important. Now, I'll admit it reorganized my priorities for approximately 6 months. And
Right?
then
It's so
and then
important.
it was, unfortunately for me, it was back to the same family drama. Don't worry, Katie will take care of it. It wasn't for another, say, about a year that I was able to change positions. So I was no longer in that toxic team environment at work. And I was
Mm.
able to fix some of the miscommunication on the family, with the family, not on the family, miscommunication with the family on what Katie will and will not do for everyone. And
Great.
so it was the start of me learning boundaries.
Oh, that's great. I think I
I
know I
know
have strong
we
boundaries.
keep coming back to boundaries episode after episode. It's really funny.
Yeah. Well, it's really fascinating because, like, a lot of the things that happen to us, boundaries are not saying that it's a new thing, but
Right.
people, it's not like it's educated. By the way, this is how you set a boundary. By the way, this is what happens. Here's the contingency if you do X, Y, and Z. But if you respect X, Y, and Z, this is where the appreciation, trust, and continuing build building a foundation can go. Who who does that?
Well, I think for me, and I can only speak for me because what we observe of other people, we only observe like 1% of their actual lives. For me, boundary I'm learning is really about communication. It's about speaking up about what I like, what I don't like, what I feel safe with, and what is an absolute 100% no.
And trust.
And trust that whoever I am talking to, whoever I am working with, whoever I'm in a relationship with, that if I say no, it's not a not now. No means no. And don't waste your time and my time trying to convince me otherwise. If I say no, I'm not going to eat coconut. There's a reason for that. I'm allergic. But I don't need to tell
Yeah,
people that I'm allergic to coconut. I just need to tell them no coconut. Nobody else needs to know Katie's
yeah,
allergies.
right. And like, well, here's the flexibility aspect. You don't know what circumstances are going to come up, and people are people. People
Right.
are not nuts. People, as much as I want to say we're simple, we're not.
We're not. We're very complex.
Yes. And the thing is, once you are aware of who you are, you're able to really communicate with others on what you need to be flexible with and how you can actually work towards a similar goal. I think once we start organizing people into boxes,
Yeah.
that's where you get some issues. For instance, you know what I've learned recently?
What have you learned recently?
I've learned that I love dating. It teaches so much. It teaches you so much about the human lifestyle. So I've learned that when a guy actually starts dating or meeting other women, right?
Right.
What they tend to do is they categorize women into four boxes.
Only four? Okay.
Only four. Fascinating, right? And I'm not saying the awesome men, you guys are great. Thank you so much for not categorizing us into four boxes. Right. So they compare us to their mother or their first ex-girlfriend or their second ex-girlfriend or their third ex-girlfriend. Yay! As a four. And then if they're like that, one of those four, then they put them in box of the four and then treat them as such from that experience.
Okay, I can see that. I can understand that because when I, okay, we're going back decades here, but when I dated in high school, there were people who reminded me of my biological father, of my stepbrother, of my stepfather. Yeah,
Well,
so
yeah.
so how else? And then there were those who were like, okay, you relate to the same as my guy friends. I like you, but I'm not romantically like you kind of deal. So I could see labeling people in those four categories when I was dating in high school. But I also know that as an adult, I have matured a lot more now.
Hmm.
I'll still say, okay, you're leaning this way, But I'll give you time to prove me wrong before I just shove you in that corner and say, yeah, you're like my stepdad. I'm not talking to you anymore.
Ooh, beautiful. So I don't know if people know this about me. There's a reason why my name is Ace, right? I actually fell in love with poker before men
Very reasonable.
and women, you know. So, with that being said, when you're at a table with new people, even if they're the same people, funny enough, it's never the same game, ever.
True. True.
The habits change, the tendencies change, the way that people respond during a certain time, like everything is different. And don't get me wrong, it's exhausting to some to be aware of those changes, be aware of those dynamics. But I lived for it. Like I remember sitting there and going, who is this person going to be today? Or who's this person? What's he going to do? Let me see. What if I splash the pot? Oh, no. Okay. What if I do this? What if I don't talk? What happens? Like I was so excited about that. And that was actually really exciting for me in regards to getting to know people and like learning about them and seeing, see, look at that. Seeing
Thumbs up. Thumbs up. We get
thumbs
the
up.
thumbs up.
We are affirmed there. I love that because then you got to really understand a person. And then sometimes, like when they came up with different responses, that means they had a different experience to that response. And I was always curious about how did you respond like that? Why? What is that? Where did that come from?
And the beauty of that is that, in my mind, the beauty of that is there are so many things that we don't know that's going on in someone's world, that we don't know what's going on in their mind, in their hearts, in their soul, that how I feel right now isn't necessarily the way how I'm going to feel in 20 minutes when my allergies decide to get worse. I can only respond in this moment. And how I feel right now isn't the same way that I felt before we got on this call and started recording because I was ready to take a nap.
And I was like, please keep going. Like,
and then it was like,
that's not
oh, but we were going to record. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds like fun because I need a little fun today. And having more fun is one of my daily things now. I want to have a little bit more fun every day.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
But I like the idea of having a conversation with someone, seeing how they respond, and then bringing that topic up again on another day to see if you get a different kind of response, how different is it, and trying to build that relationship to where you could trust each other with the reasons why your decision has changed or your opinion has changed instead of trying to convince everyone that it has to be my way.
I mean, we've seen what happens when that happens. Flexibility, folks, is so important for that because if you're rigid, it's not gonna
And I'm just gonna leave that alone because my mind
work. Kisses.
has gone down the sultry road. We'll just say that.
Oh my. But that's real. So like
Yes, side tangents is a real thing.
it's real, but it's super well, it's real, it's important. And because of that experience with poker growing up, I didn't know people did the categorization. I learned this recently. And I was like, oh, no
Oh.
wonder we had cliques in high school. What is this? And that wasn't my thing. I was like, I like this and that. And then growing up, my sisters and my parents would tell me about these incredible individuals that were super unique. Like they would tell me about this one guy that was like a specific type of doctor that works on like small veins, right? And of course, that's a meticulous job. He would do maybe 5 or less procedures a day for people who could pay and do almost 20 at as a volunteer to volunteer and do it with people who couldn't.
Now that is somebody who loves what they do.
Exactly. And not only that, they would tell me a well-rounded guy had a thing for 3-card poker, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. They got to pick and choose who they wanted to be. And I grew up with that, knowing that nobody's the same. And if they are, what? I'm trying not to judge,
Yeah,
but when people really do that, I'm like, not that I would get bored easily, but I don't want to play poker there.
that's true.
So the flexibility and understanding people's different characteristic types. The way that, like, let's say, knowing that some people aren't robots, they come compassionately one time like this, sick or fun or enjoyable,
Right.
or you have to like take a month off because of surgery, then you must be flexible, see what types of resources you can utilize, still set that determination. Don't give up on your determination, and if you need to, you redetermine for another date. But in order to really accomplish what you set out to accomplish, it's okay to be flexible on what humanely works for you.
And if you're not able to meet the deadline or the requirement or the agreement that you had because something has come up, just have communication with the person that you have that appointment or agreement or whatever with, and don't wait until after the fact, but tell them beforehand. Like, I know that if I really needed to lay down and take a nap because I had zero energy, I could call you and be like, okay, Ace, I'm just not up for it today. Can we reschedule for another day? Instead of not saying anything and you showing up on our Zoom call and you wondering where the heck I am.
Exactly. And to be very honest, like the moment you don't communicate prior to, it's too late. I'm going to be very clear about that. I honestly think there are certain things to be strict on with yourself, and there's certain things to be a little bit gentle with yourself. If you communicate too late and something important happened, you got to make up for it somehow.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way. Very important. You can't do the same behaviors. Otherwise, you're not going to build trust, and nobody's going to feel comfortable around you because you didn't respect boundaries.
True. And on the opposite side, if I've done this before where I've reached out to you and I'm like, I thought we were recording today.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm
And
so sorry. I thought I told you, and I probably did, but like
and you
something happened.
probably did, but something happened. I forgot to note it on my calendar. I forgot to, do something. I'm like, okay, no big deal. And that's on the receiving end, that's being flexible instead of being so rigid to the fact that I didn't quote unquote know ahead of time. It's highly possible that you did tell me 3 weeks ago that you were going to be visiting your family, and I just completely forgot to put it on my calendar.
And that's
I'm
okay,
a
and that's
human.
understandable. Yeah,
We're
and look,
human. It
that's
happens.
it happens. And so there was this one time I remember, what was it? It was something really, really important, and I was like, "Hey, um, oh, let's pause that." There was a really interesting memory of like I remember there was this one time I was in dire need of help, and I never asked for help.
Huh.
I don't normally ask for help unless like back then, like I would never ask for help, especially with money or anything of that nature.
Right.
Like it's
Me
not,
too.
I don't, right? And it's that position like I don't do that unless there's a reciprocity to it. I can't do that. There's something weird about it. And I remember calling this one person saying, yo, things just happened. I need some help. They dropped everything and they were there for me. Literally, they were ready. Like, do I need to book a flight? Who needs to die? Like,
Yeah.
they were there in a heartbeat. And I was just like, I'm so grateful because I know I have those friends. Do I need to do that anymore? Well, I did. And funny enough, when that guy didn't come through, there was a friend right there ready for me.
Hmm.
So I wasn't in trouble or I wasn't at a loss. I
You
already
weren't
built the
alone.
community. I wasn't alone. I already built it. Was actually really adorable because that person fell asleep on the phone. It was cute. And like that helped. And like when he fell asleep on the phone, I was like, "Why did you that?" And that's
But
it.
that's the beauty of it, you know. I remember I I have two friends that when Austin was born, I had a physically had a very rough pregnancy and had a very hard time moving around my apartment after we got home from the hospital. Brian had to go back to work. I had two friends who each came and stayed a week with me until I was able to physically move and be cleared by the doctor to drive and stuff like that. And, you know, how do I repay that? When each of them had their kids, guess where I was? I was up at the hospital with them, with one of them for almost a week when her son was in the NICU because he was born a preemie. So I could be that
Yeah,
emotional support for her. You know, for my other friend, the support comes in a completely different way. It's one of those that's okay, I need a break from my life. Let's go see what Katie's doing. And she and I just get together and we reminisce all about high school.
right,
That's the kind of support that each of those friends were looking for at that point in time in their life. So I was able to, you know, show my gratitude for the help they gave me by being there for them.
right, yeah. Like it's so amazing when those relationships come to fruition, and you know how to start them just simply by giving when you can,
When you
right?
can, yes.
Don't I'm saying don't do it when you can't, like, because that's not that actually turns into resentment. But when you can, like, I remember one of my friends, he called this one girl more than 20 times because he was stuck. It was snowing in Staten Island and he was stuck. No, he was African American, so no taxi driver would take him. This was real at the time.
Oh
He
wow.
Right, and then he became the director of transportation in New York City, and he actually put a no tolerance policy for that type of crap anymore. So, with that being said, at the
Good
time
job.
he was
Good
at the
job.
Staten Island ferry, and I actually called him today, and this girl didn't pick up, just did not pick up, wasn't there, and he had this inkling. Let me call me. Calls me, I pick up, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be there. Just to let you know, sorry man, like there's my tires are kind of balding, so I can't go up hills, but I can totally pick you up at the ferry. One sec. I had no idea how important that was to him
Hmm.
till he told me every year since.
Oh wow.
And I was just like, yeah, no, not even a problem, not an inconvenience. I love driving in the snow. I just wish my tires worked, but I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, and there's a difference too, because like in this case, he's still expressing his gratitude all this time later,
Right?
which shows that you definitely made a very positive impact on this person's life, knowing that he has this really strong connection with another human being.
Mm-hmm.
I have a different situation where someone called me in the middle of the night for a ride, and I got up, got dressed, picked them up, took them home, and zero gratitude. It was expected of me because I was that kind of a dependable person. Needless to say, that person is not in my life anymore. They haven't been in my life for several years. Thank you very much.
So there's a difference between taking somebody for granted
Yes.
and understanding exactly what you're doing in reciprocity.
And on both sides of the fence, realize that this is all a learning experience for all of us. And we have to learn the ability to be flexible. We have to learn the ability to be determined, and we have to learn the ability to trust.
Right. And I was determined that my friend who needed me, like I was going to be there for them.
Hmm.
And then the flexibility came in with everything else. But it's it's so like crucial, even just the sincerity of just being there. Oh gosh, there's nothing like that. That saves lives, folks.
Yeah, it does. And because I think all anyone ever really wants is to know at least somebody gives a damn.
Yeah, that brings hope back in a minute. In a minute. You know, I was telling somebody about this, and I know that we're gonna pull this together with what we're talking about, but
Hmm.
determination and flexibility. I remember this one time I had an ex. Yeah. They did things that weren't considerably respectable,
It happens.
right? Yeah, the behaviors were the opposite of being respectful. And I remember when I had to withdraw from that relationship, and the first thing that I thought of was, oh crap, it's COVID.
Hmm.
That person can isolate, they can be alone, and they could be a threat away from attempting.
That was scary for a lot of people during that time.
But yeah, I agree. And it's really true no matter what happens. And I understood that early. So even if a person was just awful to me, I still made sure that they had some type of padding so that
Right.
they wouldn't get there. Right. For instance, I remember, don't get me wrong, I had to heal, but I remember we had mutual friends, and I told one of my mutual friends, I need you to be friends with him. I know I don't feel like I could be in a relationship with that person ever again. But what I do understand is that person could be in a pit of despair. And because of me withdrawing their very last line, they could be out.
And I think that that's all, again, the Katie's opinion here, part of being a decent human, because just because I don't want you to be romantically involved in my life anymore, and I am choosing to distance myself from your activities that I don't connect with, I still want you to have a happy, healthy, prosperous, enjoyable life.
And that is
I don't wish ill
determination.
on anyone. And that is part of the determination, and having the flexibility to hold on to your boundaries, but still show that kind of respect and caring for someone that you don't want in your immediate vicinity shows great strength of character.
I appreciate that. Thank you. For instance, the person that we just talked about, right?
Mm.
I know he's good with his friends. Yes, people. We have mutual friends. Yay. Um, I knew I could withdraw. I knew what was stopping him from having healthy tendencies with me.
Mhm.
I knew exactly what it was. And from there, I was able to block that channel and allow him to sit with himself. I can still like refer him to some great things for his career, for his life. I can
Res
still
Resources.
resources so that even if he doesn't know they came from me. And there's the lifeline. I don't have to worry about the fact that I withdrew to protect myself, my energy, and the people that I care about, that I love, from a negative tendency, and still be able to save this person some grace so that they can continue on with their life in a good way away from me. Or if we connect in the future, it's a good way for us to know that he's a safe individual that I can trust possibly in the future.
Right. And even if it's just, I trust you with a nickel and not with $500, there's still at least a level of trust there. Okay, so maybe not even a nickel, but we're not going to go there. Bad analogy, Katie.
I mean, no, it's a good analogy for your relationships. When it comes to me, I'm kind of like, you know, we're good, right? Like you can exist. There's my nickel.
Yeah, and honey, sometimes that's all that it is. It's, I acknowledge you are on this planet. I wish you well, and that's all the acknowledgement you're going to get.
That's all you
that's all that you need, because you still have to hold that space for you. And as
Yeah.
much as there are people, myself, example, as much as there are people in my world who I absolutely love, the deeds that they do are not healthy for me
Or them, to be honest.
or
So
them, to
like,
be honest.
yeah,
But you can't force somebody to change, to grow, to do anything.
you
It
can just
has,
give them the opportunity.
and
Yeah.
if they are not ready at this particular moment in time, then it's okay to safely distance yourself from them.
Yeah.
And when they decide to grow and to heal and do whatever, maybe something can happen in the future where where I become close to them again. Chances of this happening? I am leaving it up to the universe, because it's not for me to decide whether or not they're going to change
So
or grow.
let's talk about let's circle back to the determination and flexibility on those situations, right?
Right.
You can still determine to be a good person. You can still determine to believe that both of you can be happy, but depending on the behaviors and what's happening, circumstances yield that sometimes you have to be flexible in how to respect boundaries, how
Yeah.
to respect their timeline, and allow karma to take its wheel. And with that being said, I'm not saying that in a way of like, ah, ha, ha, ha. No,
No. Yeah,
that's not usually,
it's
that's
not
not,
in a vindictive way. It's
no.
the universe does its thing, and we don't understand three-quarters of what it does. It's not up
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah. And sometimes it's kind of one of those situations where you're being protected, right? You're being
Hmm.
protected from a situation, things have happened, things. It's the best way I can put it. Um, and you have to be flexible to understand that, you can still wish somebody well. And you have to be determined to achieve your own goals as well. Those are so important to you, to what you do, and how things work. If that means being flexible and overcoming anything, that is crucial in your life. And that is what you need to do. That way, you can build your own self trust and
Right.
understand that as you keep moving forward, this is who you are. This is what you're building. This is what you're creating for yourself and for others. And that is so crucial, that determination and flexibility and perseverance to achieve what's important for you and for the people around you. And
Absolutely.
thank you. And that's the conviction of the day for me.
I think that that is a very strong and powerful message, and I think it fits in beautifully with everything that we've talked about today and with our past episodes, because empowerment starts with ourselves. We are going to have to wrap up the episode, though, because we are coming towards the end of our time. And
Thank
unfortunately,
you.
I can feel my voice is my throat is starting to disagree with all the talking I'm doing. So I am going to have to call it quits and get some tea for my
That's
throat.
flexibility. Yes. That's not quits. That's
That's not
self-care.
quits. That's definitely self-care and determination that I am taking care of myself.
Yeah. Also, I wish we could just keep listening to that sexy voice. Anyways, thank you everyone. Have a
You can play
wonderful
you can play this episode on repeat. There you go. We got you covered.
yes. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Be safe, enjoy life, and feel empowered with every step you take.
Yes. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining us. We hope that the discussion today will inspire you to take positive action in your life. Until next week, be empowered.